we'll sign off here at some point.
Right.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, John Jensen,
Hey, good morning, Jay.
how are you doing?
Good, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, John.
Good morning. Are you on Captiva, Jay?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then week after next, we leave for Wyoming, and we'll be in Jackson Hole for the month of August.
Oh, nice.
Kind of becoming an annual expedition for us to get out of the South Florida heat for a
Yeah,
month.
beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah, we got a guy that used to play at the marina. You know, he's from Jackson Hole. He lives in Nashville now, but he may be in Jackson Hole playing at some places. You know, around town in Jackson Hole. His family used to own a motel there 50 years ago.
Uh-huh.
But his name is Brent Moyer. If you see him around town, yeah.
I'll tell him John said hello.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, John,
Hey, Ken.
question.
Yep.
I'm still seeing a huge amount of landscape signs up and down Captiva Drive. Have you talked to Bob about it?
No, I haven't. No.
He seemed to have a sign on every other house.
Yeah, yeah.
I had one from Nine Graphics, and after we started talking about it again, I took it down and took it to the disposal.
Yeah. Because I think once the job's done, I believe that they have a certain amount of time to take the sign down.
And they're not doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So Walsh is leaving the sign up long after the job is finished, or
yes.
Yeah.
I'll try to speak to him also.
Okay. Yeah.
Jay, do you have any idea when when the county's going to come by and trim and clean up the sides of the roads?
No, I don't. I thought it was supposed to be imminent at the last meeting. No, I don't know the answer to that. David might, but he's not going to be with us this morning. He's, at the hearing.
Yes,
Well,
I'll call David and ask him for a telephone number.
Okay,
no.
that would be good of you to call him up and ask him what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see Bruce is back from the safaris.
Yes, he is. He is back. Doesn't look like he's been maimed by a tiger or anything, or.
I don't see any wildlife heads on the wall behind you, Bruce.
Having a good time. I wanted to go, but it would be a photo
safari on my part, but
Morning, guys. Could you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
I read,
Hi, I'm sorry. I had to pull into the green flash over here. I was having a horrible connection driving down the road, so I logged off and then logged back in and tried to get a better connection. So hopefully you could hear me now.
oh yeah, you're perfectly clear right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you already start the meeting?
No, I haven't started,
Okay.
as yet.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think, let's see, we're still missing Linda Laird, I think.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there you are, geez.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Linda. Hi, everybody.
Well, maybe we're ready to get going. We'll start with the first, welcome everybody to the July edition of the Captiva Community Panel. I'd like to welcome everybody. And we'll start off with the roll call. I'm Jay Brown, and I am here. Linda Laird, you're next.
I'm here.
Linda is here. David Mintz is at the hearing today, which Ken will brief us on for a minute or so, is my understanding. Tony Lappy. Tony, I haven't seen Tony yet. Tony, are you here? Thought Tony was planning on being here. Maybe he'll show up in a few minutes. Ken Gill.
Here,
Bruce McDonald. Bruce, we just saw you. Where are you, man?
Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay. Ann Brady.
Morning.
Hi, Ann.
Hmm.
Marguerite McVille.
I'm here. Good morning.
Ken Suarez.
I'm here.
Okay, but you'll be leaving in a few minutes. Is that right, Ken?
I will, yes.
Okay. And Sandy Stillwell
Here.
and John Jensen.
Yeah, here, Jay.
Ken, is there anything you want to say to the group of us before you have to leave? Is there anything you wanted to get across this morning?
No, just we're hoping for a positive outcome today.
Yes, yeah, me too. It's kind of difficult or hard for me to understand how we could lose this one. I had dinner with David last night and he explained how it could be possible, but I know we're all hoping for a good outcome. First order of business is approval of the June meetings. Does anybody, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second.
I'll second it.
Does anybody have any comment on the meetings,
Mm,
on the minutes? Then I guess they are approved.
all right.
Okay, first up, let's see, where's my agenda here? First up, Rich Southman, what do you have for us today, Rich?
Well, first off, I'm heartbroken regarding the whole tragedy at Blind Pass
Yes,
this past week. You know, that we're, as first responders, are not immune to grief. And I was there for 4 days straight during the search, and it was a very, very tragic event. And,
yes,
I'm sure that Chief Powell, he was there, and I'm sure he'll say that it's very, it's just, we can't express enough the dangers of that pass and the waterway and the current that flows through there. It was a tough one for
yeah.
us.
Yeah, I can understand. As I understand it, was 3 teenagers wading into the middle of the pass. I guess they were in maybe waist deep water, and the outgoing tide just swept them out. Is that basically what happened, Rich?
Yes. Yep. And one didn't make it back.
Right, I know. And it
So-
took 3 or 4 days to recover him.
Right. Right, right. And, you know, that's the last thing that we want to find, you know,
Yeah.
we hope for a positive outcome, and it's really just tragic.
Yeah, it sure is.
Hmm.
So
Go ahead, Rich.
now did you have a question?
No, do you have anything else?
Okay.
Anything else you want to report on or?
Well, I know during the last meeting, there was a positive reception by the panel regarding those cameras that were set up at Turner Beach.
Mm-hmm.
So I contacted our electronic surveillance unit at the sheriff's office, and they came out and inspected, and they said that they will be putting in some permanent cameras there.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure when, and I'll let the panel know, but they are planning on putting cameras there permanently.
Okay.
Other than that, I don't have too much. I know the 4th of July weekend, we didn't have any major events, and everything went smoothly during the 4th of July celebrations
Right.
this year.
Okay, well, that's you know, I'm glad to hear that at least, but well, thanks for checking in and bringing us up to date. Next, Jeff Powell, our fire chief. Jeff, are you around?
I am. Good morning, Jay.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna harp on the situation anymore. I think I've talked about it quite a bit the last couple of days. I think I've been on every news channel there is. But yeah, if you have any family, I think the majority of us on the island out here know that Blind Pass. You know, for that fact, any inlet is not a safe place to swim. And this was just a very tragic reminder of that. You know, as a first responders and rescue agencies. So, you know, we are going to try and, you know, work with the city of Sanibel and, you know, see if they can make some changes on their side. I don't know what will come of it, but working on setting up some meetings with their administration and just see what they're willing to possibly do in that area to help prevent this in the future. It's unfortunately not the first time it's ever happened, and I would be sure it's not going to be the last as people continue to swim in dangerous areas like this. So,
Right.
but so
Do you think could we at least put up signs warning people or?
yeah, you know, I mean, there is a big sign right when you walk out on the beach that says "Danger, no swimming."
Oh, that's already there. Yeah.
It's already there. I think it's, you know, maybe some more prevalent signs, maybe different locations. You know, I think signs are any other topic we've had on these panel meetings, right? People don't read signs. There's
Uh-huh.
signs all over every road, all over out here. And I mean, people don't read them, especially people on vacation, right? They see nice, clear blue water. It's a warm, hot day and a bunch of sand and it looks inviting. And there's other people in the water and, you know, they go for a swim or they go out on that sandbar and try and pick up seashells when tide's real low and they get stuck out on that sandbar, not paying attention to tide or weather or whatever it is. And then, you know, people get stuck out there. So, but yeah, it's just like I said, we'll kind of talk through some ideas. I don't know. Like I said, it's a city of Sanibel's beach on that side. With the way the jetty and the rocks are set up on the Captiva side, we don't have those issues. Too many people are climbing over those rocks or swimming around them to get into the pass, right? So so I don't know what the answer is, but you know, I'm gonna do what I can from our position and but yeah, just hope these kind of things don't happen again.
Right. Okay.
I would like to suggest a very practical thing. It's when people get washed out, what's very often needed is something they can cling to. And they have these, I think they are called life preserve rings. You might see them on boats. They are white or white with red, very classic, and they really work. And if there was a way to have those ready, so if someone gets washed out, at least there is a floating device.
Sorry, I think I lost you there, Marguerite, but you broke up a little bit, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are all, you know, things that, you know, we're gonna, you know, bring up as options for them and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, if anybody has any specific things that you think or you've seen or whatever, You know, I'm sure the city's going to be open to any or all of those. I don't know, I can't speak on their behalf, but you know, those are some of the types of things that we're recommending that they potentially do. And anything from, you know, like that, life rings to signage to, you know, using lifeguards from the pool. I mean, they employ lifeguards already. I don't know. You know, they have Sanibel PD that does patrols. Maybe they increase patrols, educate people more as they're out there. So yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of options out there, and you know, we'll see what develops.
I think Marguerite's suggestion is really a good one. You know, one person might say it will encourage people to swim, but I think it would be a deterrent, because if you use it and you're throwing it out with a line, you know, it would be like an emergency only, and violators will be you know, prosecuted or whatever. So that way someone's not going to try to use it for a swimming device, but it's truly a life-saving device. But I think it's a good, and it sends a real message, you know, that there is an undertow problem there.
Right.
Yeah, there definitely is. Like I said, anytime there's an inlet like that, it's a pass. You're going to have an outgoing tide, and outgoing tides are not something you want to be swimming around or near.
We live right here, and our kids were washed out quite a few years ago. And even though they knew better not to get in, they just had to not listen to us and do it. And when it happened, my youngest daughter with her friend Jen, they couldn't swim back on their own, and a 15-year-old heard them cry for help, and he found a boogie board, a styrofoam boogie board, and he went out to them and rescued them. It could have had a different outcome, and that was part of it too, that I thought if there was a safe floating device, and like these swim rings, and Sandy made a good point, when you have them out there, not everyone can have access to them. It's against the law to just remove them and use them for recreational purposes. They are for rescue only. But the boy who saved our kids, he won the Carnegie Mellon Award, the Hero Award of the Year. I mean, he put his life on the line. And so this was really, yeah, this brought back a lot of memories.
Right.
Yeah, I can tell you devices that you can throw are good. Flotation devices that you can use, like boogie boards, like rescue boards that we have, are generally not a good idea, because then that encourages the lay person out. Thankfully, in your situation, that worked out, and that boy was able to rescue them and was okay. Generally, that puts more people in danger when you try and swim out there, which is exactly what happened in this situation. 2 of them got swept out, and then the other ones went out after them. So when you have untrained people using those types of devices is when usually you run into bigger problems. There's usually not a good outcome. But devices, that's the old saying, is throw, row, go. So go is your last option, which is reserved for trained professionals. Throwing or rowing a boat, a kayak, something like that, you know, almost anybody can do, as long as you've used it before. Anybody can throw a life ring. They have discs that look like Frisbees. You know, sometimes in these situations, people actually even told us, like, hey, I was going to throw something to them, but they were way too far out. You know, you may think that, and it may be, but you might throw something and it gets caught up in that same current, and it's going to go the same place they did. So maybe it does reach them. Maybe it doesn't, but you know, those types of things, like I said, they are good ideas. They can work. So, you know, I'll try and further those discussions with them.
Has anybody considered putting a sensor under the bridge for how fast the current's running, and then having lights that light up on the bridge that indicate danger, 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 or something like that? Because you should be able to put sensors down there for when it's really dangerous and try to scare people more.
I do not know. I have not heard of that before, but I'm not saying it's not an option. I don't know, Linda.
I've never heard of it either. I just thinking about being able to identify this as a particularly dangerous situation.
So yes, so I would say, in my opinion, yeah, those there may be sensors that do identify that, but in my opinion as a rescuer, I don't think it's ever a good idea. So I don't care what that water speed or current is coming under that bridge.
Don't want people out there
You
anytime.
shouldn't be out. You shouldn't be out there at all. You want to fish from the shore, that's one thing, but you should. There is plenty of beach between Sanibel and Captiva that you don't need to be in the water in that pass. Whether it's a slack tide, an outgoing or an ingoing, at no point should anybody ever be swimming in that pass.
Mhm.
Also, could you put out things that say there's sharks in that water to try to scare people more?
I mean, I think if, yeah.
I'm just thinking that was all
Yeah.
outside the box. And how do you
Yeah.
keep?
Yeah, I think people might read that sign, shark
Yeah,
in
that might
water.
scare them rather than, oh, the tide's too strong for you.
I think if you don't know there's sharks in the water in Florida, then you're not you've never watched the news before, especially the last couple months. I think that's been pretty prevalent that there are definitely sharks in all of our waters.
I
Yeah,
know.
we've done a lot of publicity on that this year.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Can
do you have
can
anything
I
else
just-
to read?
Hey, Chris.
Can I just ask a question of Jeff?
Sure.
course.
Is it possible to just
No,
say that there is no swimming and put up
no,
barriers
I'm actually
off the
listening
beach
to the community.
that there's
Um,
no swimming
so-
allowed?
Yeah, so in my opinion, yeah, I think that would be a great idea. I don't know, like I said, it's the city of Sanibel's beach. It's not Captiva and Lee County, from what I understand. That's part of the city. But yeah, I mean, that's part of the discussion that I plan to have with them. I think that's a great idea. I don't know how receptive they will be to that, but that's my first idea. If that doesn't work, then yeah, the other types of options. But
Yeah, because if then people would read, it's like you walk this far this way, you drive this far this way. There are many other beaches, you know, what do they say, 20 miles of beaches? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there's other places to go. And if even listing, you know, there have been X amount of people who have died in these waters in the past 5
Yeah.
years or something where it's, I don't know, it just seems like death
yeah, yeah.
is a reason to make change, right?
Yeah, and I don't know of anywhere else in Lee County that they don't allow it. I was trying to find one of the other inlets that Lee County prohibits, and I have not found one yet. I know it's discouraged, but you know, if you go south, Fort Myers Beach, down the Big Carlos Pass, Little Carlos, Hickory, you know, boats anchor up in there all day long, and everybody sits there and swims in that, and you know, so.
Yeah.
But no, I do agree. I think that's the ultimate solution, but we'll find out how practical that really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Jeff, anything else you'd like to report on?
The only other thing I'll mention it as I do every time this year. Let Hurricane Beryl be a reminder that we've already had one storm spin up into a Category 5 already. Thankfully, it dropped a little bit before it made landfall in the U.S., but a lot of those islands weren't spared as easily. So if you're not prepared and you haven't started thinking about it yet, there's your reminder. So go ahead and get your house, your family, your supplies, whatever it is you need to be prepared this season. Go ahead and make sure that gets done. And then lastly, I'm not sure how much it's been mentioned yet, but there is plans to do the triathlon on the island again come September. So I don't have a lot of details on that, but I have been heard that and seen the signups already online for that. So.
Okay.
That's all I have right now, Jay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Let's see, up next, CEPD. Linda, do you have, can you give us a little update on CEPD?
We didn't meet yesterday because we're waiting for the assessment of the last measurement of all of the beach. We've gotten what we have is new bids back in from the various vendors. They came down a little bit. We need to make some decisions. What we're waiting to do is get the latest from Aptim on what the condition of the beaches is, and then we'll probably meet later this month to decide on who we're going with and what the program's going to be. But we're waiting until we get all the data, and then we'll make some decisions.
Do you anticipate the renourishment would occur when, next spring or?
One of the vendors is suggesting this fall.
Okay,
So I can't say anything in terms of what we're going to select. Don't know.
all right. Anything else from CEPD that we should
Not
be
that
aware
I
of?
know of. Not
Okay.
that all quiet.
Okay, well, I noticed that the consultant has begun work on Bayside preservation.
Yes. Well, there's a series of different meetings that we're having with the community. I'm not prepared to go into that today.
Okay,
Okay?
all righty, thank you for that. Next is Matt DePolis here from SCCF.
Hey Jay, hey everyone. Not a whole lot of updates today. The lake is doing well. Algae is kind of persisting at background levels. We're really just receiving water from the basin runoff, not any releases right now, and that's because we were able to build that resiliency into the system earlier in the year with some of those releases. So everything's looking good right now. That can change depending on storms, but luckily barrel swing west of us and nothing else is on the radar for the next few days at least. So hopefully we can have a quiet week or two after the holidays.
Right. But you're saying the lake level is good right now and
yeah, right now it's right around 13.5 and that's right where we want it to be. So high enough that we're not going to get cut off and low enough that it can absorb some rains.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, Matt?
Nothing really. It's thankfully a little quiet right now, which is rare.
Okay, good. Thank you. Next up, this would be normally when we're going to have David Mintz's report on our legal efforts to preserve our building heights and our density, but David is attending a hearing today. This is a hearing on whether or not the agreement that existed between the county and CCA back in 2002 is still enforceable. So that's what the subject matter is. Ken, I think David said you were going to have a brief update from him for the panel.
Yes. It will be very brief because I won't have all the details that David can normally provide. And much of this was sent out in yesterday's email. So if you're looking for the attachments that are discussed, they are linked to that. If you're not getting those emails, let me know so I can get you on the list. First up, the CCA challenge to the Land Development Code amendments has been scheduled for trial August 19th through August 22nd, and again the following week, the 26th. That's the administrative law judge hearing that they've been working towards for 9 months now. Now that it's finally scheduled, that's a very positive sign. They have Protect Captiva has witnesses lined up to testify against the Land Development Code amendments. The CCA
argument being that the code changes aren't consistent with the Captiva plan. Is that correct?
Particularly the longstanding pattern of development phrasing. The increase in height and density is against the tenets of the plan that the county is supposed to uphold. Right now, the CCA has been joined by the city of Sanibel and the county has been joined by South Seas in this effort. Apparently, when South Seas joined, they immediately tried to strike a number of paragraphs of the motion, mostly tied to density. The Protect Captiva attorneys obviously disagree with that and basically are saying to the judge the claims that South Seas are making are borderline frivolous. So they'll be getting ready for that over the next month. That should be a very interesting case. As Jay mentioned, the second item is the settlement agreement the CCA had gotten with the county concerning density on the resort. That's going to a judge this morning at 10 a.m. The county has filed to dismiss the complaint, saying that the county back then didn't have the right to act to encumber the county now, which seems to be a rather odd approach to say that, well, those commissioners were crazy. These commissioners know what they're doing. So it'll be, I'm sure as David told you, Jay, there'll be a number of things that could go wrong, because anytime you get in front of a judge, all sorts of interesting things can happen. But on the face of it, this should be a pretty cut and dry. Of course, the old commissioners had the opportunity to encumber. That's what zoning is.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a pretty basic tenet. But we hopefully will find out, I guess, from what, I don't know if there'll be a decision today. David was thinking there might be, because this is not testimony. It's all based on the evidentiary filing. So it's basically they sit down, make brief arguments in front of the judge who would review the papers. So there's a chance, I'd hope, that we would hear something in the pretty near future.
Yeah,
And
well,
obviously,
I had dinner with David last night, and yeah, he explained that it's possible we could get a decision today, but he said it's also likely that additional points of law could be raised and the hearing could be postponed. But I don't know. I'm not an attorney. It just it seems to me that that was a contract that was created. People who live in South Seas, bought property in South Seas, relied on that contract.
Mhm.
And, we're told that there's only going to be a certain level of density, only a certain level of building heights. People relied on that. And I don't know how you can say that the people bought all the property in South Seas based on what that contract was, don't have a right to, have that contract be enforced. But again, I'm not a lawyer.
well, and the other question is, the county settles issues all the time. This is not a new concept. They are sued quite regularly, and they often will have settlement agreements like this one. So if the judge were to say, well, this one is invalid, what door does that open?
Right.
Mhm.
It seems a very curious approach, but again, we'll find out. The third item that David wanted to express is that the master plan application that South Seas has submitted for the 196 condos and 435 hotel rooms has been deemed insufficient one more time.
This is the third time, right?
This is the third time. Specifically, the county is continuing to require that South Seas prove they will have potable water, to explain how the increase in hotel rooms will impact existing properties on the resort, to document how parking associated with the new development will be met, and to clarify how future employees of the resort will get to and from Captiva. Reading through the letter, just personally, it was striking to see the things that were not addressed from the previous two insufficiency reports. It's like the county has told you what they want to hear, and the Timbers Resorts response seems to be, well, what we said this. Having gone through a lot of county permitting over my sordid career, that's not the way you approach things. If the county says they want an answer to this, you answer it. The fact that they're not is very curious.
Yeah.
The other thing that's important about this is that until the county staff deems that this application is complete, no further hearings will be scheduled. So until they get done with this cycle, nothing moves forward. Finally, again, of course, Protect Captiva wants to thank all of its donors. As David mentioned last month, they've exceeded $600,000. Now that South Seas has weighed in on the county side, they expect that legal costs will continue to rise, and they encourage the community to support them if financially possible. We've given information about that. As I said, yesterday, a lot of information came out from the three sources. Once we hear something from the judge today, I'm sure more stuff will be forthcoming. Obviously, I won't entertain questions too much because I don't have all the answers. But we can pass them back to David if you have anything you want to express to him.
Anybody have any questions or you know, I know a little bit about it. I might be able to help, or Ken might, or at the very least, we can have David reply to him later.
Is this a different group of planners who are reviewing this than the initial ones?
No, it would be the same. It's pretty much the same county staff. Usually once a planner is assigned to a case, they stick with it simply for continuity. They might job it out to other people to assess certain parts of it, and probably with the size of the filings, they may have brought in other planners to cover some of the aspects, but it would still go back to the same main planner, and it's still working with the same county staff.
What time is the hearing, or was the
10
hearing?
o'clock.
10
It's at-
o'clock. So
Oh,
we're
10
in
o'clock.
about 20 minutes.
Okay.
One other question I had was that when I was reading through the things that the briefings of them, it said things about 50 feet away from the water. Did you
Right.
read that, Ken?
Yeah. If you'll look at
Go
a
ahead.
lot of the zonings or the land use issues often will have distances from open bodies of water as a requirement.
And I think it's Chadwick Bayou, if I get my bayous correct here, where the road comes right next to the water. Is there any implications with that from your point of view, from your viewpoint?
Possibly, however, that road was there before county zoning was instituted, so it's going to be considered grandfathered. What they might require is, should it be elevated? Should it be revetted to protect
Yes.
it? The
Yeah.
advantage of
Yes.
Chadwick's Bayou is that it is tidal, but it's not storm wave driven. It will be overwashed. If that was the Captiva Drive stretch by Twin Waters, obviously they'd be much more concerned because it's near an active wave zone. Being on the bay side, they would be concerned about tidal flooding, and they probably should be looking at that and saying, is that road high enough to stay out of the water in average tides? You know, if I were an owner there, I'd be looking at that and saying, you know, can I leave my dwelling unit if we get a king tide? But will that be a way to stop development? No. They might flag it as something that should be looked at as a conditional item of the permit. But
Okay.
as I said, since the road's been there,
Forever.
it's
whatever.
not going anywhere.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, but I can see Linda's point, though. That there would be a lot more people using that road. That is the main road. It's Plantation Drive that runs through South Seas.
Right, but the problem
I
is that
think it gets covered with a little water now on high tides.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah.
The other problem is the county can only do so much about a private road. They can have requirements that it be able to service the density that's being proposed, but it's not a public road. So they can't come in and say, you know, you must bring it up to these standards.
Well, can't they
But-
say it has to be safe for the people who work and live, who are
Yes,
they have,
but
it has to be safe.
but defining safe may be tricky.
Yeah.
It's as opposed to Captiva Drive, let's say, where you can very clearly say, if we can't get a fire truck or a police vehicle down there at a high tide, that's a public health and safety issue. Internally, they might come back to this is all speculation, of course. Could come back to South Seas and say it must be elevated or revetted, or maybe they have to come up with a second route, which would be an interesting thing to watch them try to do.
Yeah, it would be. That's a
But I
tough-
mean, you know, it's not the same as a public road. I mean, and if you look at a lot of developments like this, you'll see often inside them, the roads are substandard compared to a public road. They can require certain things, but unless there's a clear risk to public health and safety, it's harder to tip the scales on that one. But yes, they could say it should be able to withstand this level of flooding, routine flooding.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Anything else further on the legal issues, Ken?
I don't believe so. I'm sure David will be trying to keep people informed, particularly on the run up to the August trials, as to kind of when things are happening and when to expect some outcomes. These administrative law trials are ponderous and don't expect a fast response. Again, even more so than what you said, Jay, for this trial today, administrative law can get a lot more complicated, and there will be a lot more briefs that may need to be filed subsequent to the initial hearings. Things would need to be followed up. So this will be a longer process. Patience is encouraged.
Okay. Do you have an update on, FEMA's,
Yes, a very short one. Speaking of patience, the county has filed its response to FEMA in early June. They have also established.
This is where FEMA has recommended that we not get flood insurance discounts.
Based on it's based on the way the reconstruction was handled post Ian. FEMA was raising concerns about how the county was allowing permits on rebuilding structures, whether they were looking for substantial improvement and substantial damage assessments in light of the 50% rule. So obviously the county was trying to respond to the issues of its citizens and businesses as quickly as possible. But FEMA is coming back in and saying if you allowed buildings that should have been declared damaged to be rebuilt, you're putting the overall National Flood Insurance Program at risk, which is something that they take very seriously because it's a costly item. Proved that you're doing this. The county has responded on the over 400 properties that FEMA flagged with a fair amount of documentation. The county has also established a website where people can go to find out more about this and about the process in general. It's legov.com/FEMA-CRS. It's not a bad website for the average consumer to get a sense of what the community rating system, which is the CRS part of that, stands for and how it impacts your flood insurance. They are still awaiting a response from FEMA. I spoke with Commissioner O'Rain's aide yesterday, and they've been working with our Washington representatives to try to facilitate and put some pressure on FEMA to get a response. However, when you're dealing with over 400 properties, that's a lot of paper. The 1 month deadline to respond, I think, was aspirational since it's already passed, but the county is continuing to work with this. And I know that the senator's offices, and I assume Representative Donalds as well, have been involved with this, trying to keep FEMA moving forward to get us an answer as soon as possible. So to be continued, but it hasn't been forgotten, and the county is continuing to push forward on finding out what's going on.
Okay, but the county is, as I understand it, is aggressively pursuing this, trying to keep our insurance rates like they were previously without us losing our discount.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just a federal, it's dealing with a federal agency that has a lot of balls in the air, particularly say after this week when one of our southern states got hit with a Category 1 hurricane that keeps, even though it's a different part of FEMA, still keeps everybody up there hustling.
Okay, next topic is Sunset Captiva Crosswalk.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything on this? John, you're part of that?
Yeah, we have not heard from the county. Dave's waiting to hear, and when he hears something, we're gonna meet with the county and they're gonna come out and we're gonna go over it, but we haven't heard back from the county yet.
Yeah, I called the person who David suggested yesterday and have still not gotten a call back on that, so.
Okay.
Is there any solid reason why you shouldn't be able to establish a crosswalk there?
I think they have criteria that, like David said, you have to be so far back from a stop sign.
Yeah, the traffic code for the state is at minimum 200 feet from a crosswalk to a stop sign. And that's so they can stack up cars so that somebody can get through the stop sign, stop at the crosswalk without backing up traffic all along Captiva Drive. Eyeballing it, I don't see that that's a problem, but
Yeah.
I didn't go out there and measure it. There may be a couple other criteria they need to meet, and it's all based on the short answer. The short-term name of it is the traffic code, things that they're required to do.
Okay.
And crosswalks, it comes from stop signs and particularly curves are both concerns. So I think it's just a question of staying on DOT and trying to get them to make a decision.
Okay. All right. So we're just waiting to hear from them. Yeah.
So you think we need to, you said stay on DOT. What you
I think
think?
David's been calling them.
Okay.
If that doesn't start to work, we'll have to go up the food chain, I guess.
Mhm.
Our friend Randy Searchy's no longer the director, but I believe Robert Price is somebody that David and I have worked with in the past. Just we don't know him as well as Randy, but
Okay.
if there's a problem, I'm sure that David can work on breaking it loose.
Jay, is that the guy we met, Robert?
Randy
Uh,
Searchy,
when we met to go over the road, vegetation, and everything. I don't
right.
think it was Randy. It might have been Robert.
No, yeah, it was. I think that was his last name, but to be honest, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Okay. Maybe
And,
Dave. All right.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know. I know Lee County is, is supposed to be cutting vegetation back 2 feet from the shoulder.
Yeah.
And we want to find out when that's going to happen also.
Okay. All right.
Next up, Verizon. This is short. I was in contact with Verizon last week. They say they are almost done with the improved Verizon cell phone service throughout the island. And they expect that it will be completely finished by October 1st. And supposedly at that time, we'll have nice, clear cell phone signals, throughout the island,
Nice.
which would be amazing if we finally got that done after what we've been working on this for 3 or 4 years, something like
Yeah.
that.
No, that's great.
And that's only if you're a Verizon customer or?
Yeah, right. No, it's just Verizon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But at least, we would have, one carrier that we can count on for reliable service.
Yes.
Mhm.
Next up, I think I'm up. Yeah, nominating committee. Let me get my notes together on this because that's my topic. All right, going off the panel next year, will first be me. I have served 6 continuous years, so I will not be on the panel next year. I will have to take at least a year off. And if the panel wants me to continue on being chair of the wastewater committee or something like that, I'll be happy to continue on that way. Ken Gill, you have a term that expires at the end of this year. You're a CPOA appointee. You are eligible for another 3-year term. So I would suggest that you get, probably with Renee Maville, who I think is head of CPOA, and discuss with him whether or not you wish to continue on for another 3 years for the panel. And the last person going off the panel next year is David Mintz, who is a panel appointee. David has another 3-year term available to him. So what we need to do is to form a nominating panel for panel appointees. The nominating panel has to consist of one person on the panel who recruits 2 other people who are not on the panel. And then the 3 of you determine, who the best person would be to serve on the panel. Obviously, I think we would all think that, David Mintz should be the CPOA appointee, given all the work he does for the panel, all the legal work and everything that he's involved in. So I think this would be just a formality of us forming a nominating committee. And then the committee will make a recommendation, hopefully to reappoint David to another term. So what I need now is somebody to volunteer to form a nominating committee. John, I think you would be great at this.
You want- All
So,
right,
will you take it on? Will you be chair of the nominating committee?
I'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you need to find 2 other people who are non-panel members
Okay.
and be prepared to make a nomination. I think it's at the October meeting. Is that right, Ken?
Yes, it is. And I also will reach out to Emily at the CCA because the CCA will need to nominate someone to replace you, Jay.
Right. Okay.
So Jay, I'll just go out and get 2 community people in the
2
community.
community members, right? And if you agree with me that it's just a slam dunk, David ought to come back on the panel. I think I would go out and try to recruit, other candidates, because all you're going to do is probably disappoint people.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just a sure thing that, given all David does for the panel, we would want to appoint him for another 3-year term.
Yeah, I agree.
He wants to be on for another 3-year term.
Yeah, he does. I've discussed that.
Yeah.
Oh, he does. Oh, great.
So
Okay.
can I just ask Ken a question about this? So really, the CCA has to appoint a person for Jay's position. It's up to them, correct?
Right. That's
Right.
correct.
And then for Ken and for David's position, if they agree to another 3-year term, is that just then they get another 3-year term?
No,
No, in the case of
the appointing organization has to say.
Right. No, I know the CP. Right. So say the CPOA says yes, and Ken and David say yes. So then you really wouldn't even want to nominate anyone else, right? Because.
yes, but you still have to have a nominating committee. Even to reappoint David, there needs to be the committee formed according to the bylaws.
I see.
Okay. And then do you send out something saying if somebody wants to, join the panel? We do a vote in October. So even though, say Ken and David want to re-up, or they're going to be on there, does there have to be a vote?
Well, there has to be a vote to approve David. Ken is an appointment, and whoever replaces Jay will be an appointment that the panel won't have any influence over. The nominating committee can do what it wants to do. There's no parameters that say it has to do this, that, or the other thing. You just have to come up with a slate with a recommendation. If you want to solicit for the community members to determine any interest, you can do that. If you decide that David is the choice, given the situation that the community is now in, that's also a decision that's allowed by the bylaws.
Okay.
You don't have to go out and recruit other candidates.
Gotcha. Okay.
If your committee is convinced David's the best appointee, then you don't have to go out and recruit other people.
Okay, because the nominating committee is required, which I will put together, and then we go. Okay,
Yes.
Got it.
And then obviously the CCA will appoint someone. They may decide to solicit interest from the community depending on what they're looking for, and that may be an opportunity for somebody to express, but that's going to be a CCA directed effort.
Okay. In my nominating committee, it just has to be like a property owner on Captiva.
Two other people. I guess they need to be upright and breathing. Otherwise, There's very little guideline.
That's a,
Okay.
that's a pretty rigorous standard there.
I know,
This is
particularly
gonna
in the
be,
summer, but
this is gonna be tough. Yeah.
I have a question. Oh, I'm on mute.
Go ahead, Linda.
you are on mute. Now you're muted.
Okay. So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, part of this nominating process is a little, it seems to me a little odd where we have this Captiva Property Owners Association that Renee sort of takes care of, and nobody even knows who's on it, at least I don't, in all the years I've been here.
Well, that's easily discoverable.
How do we
I know Renee's on it. Sandy, I think you're on that committee, aren't you? Aren't you with CPOA?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Can anybody join CPOA?
I
Is it
don't know. I
owner?
don't know the answer to that.
CPO, it's a very complicated process because of the way the panel was formed
I
24 years ago, that we have never undone. The Captiva Property Owners Association is the legal entity that operates, that supports the panel. That decision was made once upon a time because the CPOA had a 501c3 designation, and that allowed the panel to be a nonprofit. We never changed that because trying to stop it and create a new entity and transferring everything over was going to be very complicated. Not impossible, just complicated. So they stuck with
We did several years ago, trying to make a change in that and the bylaws so that we looked at other methods of establishing who panel members would be. And we looked at that a number of years ago, and it didn't get sufficient support amongst the panel as a whole to replace the process that's now in place.
Okay.
So the CPOA is a legal entity. Essentially, if you can argue that if you contribute to the panel, you're a CPOA supporter or member. It does not have a membership roster per se, because its sole purpose for existence is to support the panel. So it's not doing events, it's not dealing with property, it's not doing the things like, for example, the CCA does. The CPOA's legal function right now is to support the operations of the community panel.
Okay. For me, I mean, I have no problem with whoever has been nominated by the CPOA. Okay. I have no problem with that. But to me, it seems like a very odd way to do it, that you have, so what we always do is go ask Renee, and Renee comes up with somebody, and I'm not complaining about anybody, and that's it. To me, it would be more transparent and involved more focus on the community if you did something similar to the way the panel is doing appointees, which is John's going to get some people from the community, and that's that. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe we don't want to.
No, I understand your arguments, Linda, there. And again, all I can say is a number of years ago, we formed a committee and we looked at alternative ways of identifying people to serve on the panel. We came up with alternatives, and there weren't enough members of the panel at that time who were supportive of making a change. So we continued on with the historical process. That's not to say we couldn't look at it again.
Well, it may not be the top priority at this point in time. I just wondered. Okay.
Well, I have a question to follow up on that. Ken, to that end, how many seats are actually not designated by an entity?
4. There are
Out of,
5 CPOA appointees, 2 CCA appointees, and 4 panel appointees. And that was done, the CPOA petitioned the county originally to form the panel in 2000. At the formation discussion in 2002, it was suggested to give 2 additional seats, to add 2 additional seats and make those CCA appointments to help broaden the reach of the panel and its support in the community. Shortly thereafter, when the panel first met, there was a decision to add, I think at first 2 more panel elected positions, and then within another year or 2 more after that, to the total of 11.
and is the CPOA an organization that has it has their members are noted somewhere, and do they have a transparent process for nominating people to the panel?
I'm not aware of the nominating process. That's usually Renee calling members of the board. I guess I'm not involved with that. We used to have
Of the
members,
board, meaning members of the CPOA board?
right?
Yes. Yeah,
Know who the members of the CPOA board are?
I can get that for you. I have to go back to Sunbiz because I haven't looked at it in a while. I have to file that every year.
Well, I think that would be helpful to know. I mean, it's,
Give me 1 second. I'll see if I can find it.
I mean, even if not now, but I mean, I'm assuming that then, as you said, the board votes on it. So it would just be interesting to know who those people are, how many of them.
And I know, you know, I my memory doesn't, but I'm one of them. I know, I think Tony Lappy, maybe.
yes.
One of the Jensens, John, I think you are, maybe, are you?
No,
No, I think Mike
So look
Mullins
it
may
up
still
on
be.
Sunbiz. Sunbiz is probably the best way to do it. And then we really only meet once in a while if someone calls a meeting for something, you know, and they comprise of property owners.
Individual property owners, like you have to own a business, you mean, or just a resident?
No, it could be a resident too, yeah. It's not like a commercial type of thing. It's
But it seems like it's this private thing.
I don't know, you know, when I joined, that was one of those things. I think it was formed way back with the incorporation issue that arose way back then, if I recall. You know, I could be wrong, but it seems to me that that's what it was. And then, but then we were the one who took over and started the Captiva Community Panel. So, yeah.
So right now, the 3 officers listed on Sunbiz are Renee, Sandy, and Mike Mullins. Mike Kelly used to be an officer. Obviously, when he passed away, he was removed, and he's not been replaced.
So
as far as the rest,
It just seems like it's an anachronism, if that's the right word.
that very well may be. If you want to change it, however, it would take a change of the bylaws or a discussion with the CPOA board to make those structural changes. Not to say that it couldn't be done.
I think, Linda, maybe, you know, keep in mind that the panel was created by CPOA.
Yes.
And I think they felt that they wanted really significant representation on the panel because they were the people that founded the panel.
Well,
Yeah,
as I said, the other
dead. I mean, it's not like they're all still around. People.
No, we just had, I think we just had a discussion about filling Mike's position, but we're like the nonprofit entity behind it as well, that you can do the donations to, etc. So beyond that, you know, we don't like advocate anything, or, you know, we don't have monthly meetings or dues or anything like that. We're the nonprofit charity that is part of this organization. That's the basis for it.
And that's really the biggest issue, because having done it a couple times, getting a C3 is not easy. And once we were able to get the Property Owners Association converted from a C4 to a C3, that made sense to stick with that until there was sufficient energy for a change, which would basically be either taking over the Property Owners Association or creating a brand new entity called the Captiva Community Panel that would have to file and get the transfer of assets and pursue its own nonprofit designation.
Right. Just out of curiosity, Sandy, since the CPOA is the nonprofit entity, why were they not the ones who secured the legal funds and became because Protect Captiva CCA as the nonprofit has been the one to collect the funds? So why wasn't the CPOA the entity, since they're the backer of the?
That's a good question, but I think it has something to do with, when the one thing I think everybody has to be really careful about is that you don't lose your nonprofit status. And something had to do with something about advocating for something, and I probably know about enough to be dangerous at this particular point. So I'm just gonna turn it over to you, and because there was a specific reason for the way we did it. And so yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
that was some of it, but actually the biggest reason that CCA took the lead on some of that was the panel's bylaws require discussions in the sunshine. And the decision was made that Protect Captiva was going to be harmed if it had to have all of its discussions in public.
I see.
You can't have an effective legal strategy if you have to discuss it on a Zoom call in front of anybody who wants to log in. Keeping it as a CCA allowed them to maintain the more effective communication without the need for such high levels of transparency. And since the CCA already had standing on a couple of the issues that were being discussed, particularly the settlement agreement, they were going to be involved anyway. They could act more nimbly than the panel could in terms of being able to have discussions and make decisions rather than having to hold meetings like this, which would just be overwhelming amounts of work for you all.
And we would be shooting ourselves in the foot if everything was up into the sunshine. So that was kind of the big.
Right. I mean, how do you pursue the legal things that we're all trying to do here? If, every time you wanted to make a decision, you had to hold a public meeting and you would be broadcasting your strategy to your opponent. So.
Understood. I agree with Linda that I just think, I'm not saying I wouldn't necessarily advocate for changing the way things are run, but I do think transparency and just, so people understand how the process takes place.
Yeah. The only time we meet is when we need to have a new panel member, and that's about it. And we're kind of like the entity behind the entity, but the business that we really do is what we do as a panel, so other than that, it's about it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think that covers what we have to do to have a full panel starting next year. Let's see what's next. Wastewater committee update, that is mine also. Okay, where the wastewater committee is right now, we have completed all but one consulting study that's necessary to be able to have a complete understanding of what our sewer system would be on Captiva. We have the collection plan was done, and it's been done for over 2 years by Kimley Horn. So we know what the collection system looks like, throughout Captiva. We have a cost estimate for it, which is currently stands at $28 million. So that basically, that 28 million provides for sewer lines, a main sewer line going down Captiva Drive from South Seas all the way to the end of the island. It involves having side sewers on all the streets in the village that are connected to the main sewer line. It includes connecting all the houses in the village to the side street sewer lines. And it includes all the homes outside the village will connect directly to the main sewer line. So that's the collection system. The design has been done, for well over 2 years. The cost is 28 million. And at the time I started this project, which was back in the days when I was a very young man, we thought that that would be the only significant costs, involved, that we assumed that we could just tap into Sanibel's sewer system and use the Donex plant, which had plenty of capacity for Captiva. So, but Sanibel wanted to do a consulting study to make sure that it had adequate piping capacity to handle all of our wastewater. That study was performed by Tetra Tech, and Tetra Tech determined that they did not have enough capacity, and to handle our wastewater, there'd have to be a second sewer line run all the way through Sanibel to carry our wastewater to the Donex plant. Cost of that is $11 million. Then they also determined that there would have to be a line and new lift stations that would transport our waste from the Turner Beach lift station, which would be a new lift station to be built to handle Captiva's wastewater. There'd have to be another pipeline going from that lift station to Sanibel's northernmost waste lift station, which is called the Sea Spray lift station. That pipe is $8 million. Then Sanibel determined that they didn't have enough capacity to dispose of processed wastewater, which meant doing a new deep injection well, and the cost of that is $24 million. So we're now up to $76 million, to complete this project, which is far beyond anything that, we ever anticipated. And, if you just do some rough calculations and you take that out to a cost per property basis, $76 million is just not doable. It's too much money for an individual property owner. It's something like $100,000 a property owner. So what we've decided that we have to do is to seek public funding support, for at least parts of the whole system that would be required. We identified that HUD has significant amounts of grant money available, and we have made application to have the Captiva collection system paid for by HUD. And Sanibel is making a proposal to HUD that HUD pay for their new injection well of 24 million. So that would at least cut it in half if we were to get those grant funds. The grant applications have been made, and I think we will find out sometime in December as to whether or not our grant applications have been approved. The last study that has to be done is an economic study, which I think has probably been done by Sanibel, but they have not yet shared the results. That study looks at how much should Sanibel be charging Captiva to process the wastewater. So don't know what that would be. It won't be anything like, what the other expenses are, but we need that final expense also. But we should have the results of that study soon. I know it was supposed to be done a month or two ago. And I just haven't had it's probably a situation where I just haven't had the results communicated to me yet. So
Hmm.
that's where we are on wastewater. I think we're gonna have to hope that we can get substantial public assistance to bring down the cost of this, and if not, we're gonna probably have to come up with some sort of a more cost-effective plan.
Mhm.
To assure that our septic systems don't pollute coastal waters, and to assure that our septic systems will remain effective for the long term when we start having to deal with sea level rise.
Hmm.
So that's my report on where we are with wastewater. Anybody have any questions or?
And Jay, what about that plant by the sanctuary, Wolford Road? Wasn't that a possibility? And I know it's
Sanibel looked at that,
Yeah.
but apparently it was far more that they built that plant, but it's never been used apparently.
yeah.
And I think they determined it's much more economical for them to expand Donax
Yeah.
than it is to operate that second wastewater plant. That's called the Wolford plant.
Wolford, yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. Next up,
Stormwater.
yeah, stormwater. Linda, I don't know if you have anything on that. I know did you want to speak to that or you want me to, or?
I would appreciate you speaking to it. I don't have anything on it. I know we're trying to get funding and David is working on it.
Yeah, we have a proposal from Kimley Horn to design a wastewater or stormwater system for the village. It's a $200,000 project, and we're trying to get Lee County to pay for it. We've been assured by Kevin Ruane that they will pay for it, but we have no official communication yet that it's been approved by Lee County.
Hey, Jay, that water level, that water level gauge that we had at Sunset Captiva, have we gotten a new one? And has that been installed? Do you know that?
I don't know that wasn't one of my projects. Linda, you seem to know something about that.
CEPD took it over and I think Daniel has been doing things with it.
Okay.
I'm not up on exactly where it is and what we're doing, but that's what's going on.
Okay, because our dock at Sunset should be completed this week or next week. And but if you're still looking for a place to put it, we could put it back there if you talk to Danny. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I think we all should remember that the panel started a number of years ago looking at how are we going to protect the bay side of Captiva from long-term sea level rise, and we did a lot of work on that.
Mhm.
And then we determined it was probably best to move that project to CEPD because they had a lot more funding capability than we, as the panel did,
Mm.
to
Okay.
continue to develop plans to protect the Bayside.
Okay.
Okay, that brings us to iguanas.
Yeah.
Anything new on iguanas? I'm still
Yeah.
running along the road there all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I know. I see a lot of, the foot long ones I've seen quite a few of those. I've been talking to John Riegert in the CEPD, and the next meeting they're going to discuss the CEPD funding iguana control.
Oh, okay.
So
We're
they,
arguing that the iguanas are eating away at our coastline, or
they eat vegetation that protects the island. They get behind seawalls that on the bay side that can destroy those. So they're that and invasive species too. They're gonna try and put that in the budget. Iguana control and invasive species vegetation control. And they think they may be able to get reimbursed through some different organizations. So that'll be at the next meeting. And you know, they could fund it, let's say $100,000 a year. That would bring you know, Alfredo out for 4 days a week.
Right.
Or whoever's doing the work. I don't know if he'd have to get bids, but you know, Alfredo knows the island. He'd be the, you know, the logical one to do it. But that way we're not dealing with the county on trying to get, or we're trying to get
Right.
funding and, you know, doing the iguana hunt and, you know, so this may just be an ongoing thing where the CPD funds it.
Well, that's an interesting approach.
Mm.
I hope John Rieger can find some way that logically would be within the purview of CEPD. 'Cause it's
Yeah.
a lot easier for them to get money than for, you know, for us, than it is for us.
Yeah, so that was good to hear. And John's been working on it if anybody has questions, but it'll be on, they're gonna be discussing at the next meeting. So I'm gonna try and attend that.
Okay. Very good. Okay, next up, development. Ann, do we have anything new?
No, all quiet on the development front, Jay.
Okay, well, I think, you know, I think we're well funded right now, and I'm sure that we will, you know, put out an appeal at the end of next year or at the end of when people come back in the fall, we'll put out an appeal and
We
I
will.
think our welcome back cruises, I think, have been successful and
Mm-hmm.
Yep. we'll
both raise money and also raise awareness of the panel.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't know if there's anything new with the iguana eradication fundraiser. I can talk.
Oh,
So I know Marguerite and Sandy were talking about that. But I don't know if that's something that's you guys are gonna continue with or.
I say let's wait and see what the CEPD comes up with.
That's a great idea, yeah. And congratulations on that, John. I mean, I don't know if that was your idea or how that came about, but since we know a couple people on CEPD, hopefully we can write any letters or do anything to support that. Let us
I
know.
don't think it'll take a real vigorous campaign on the part of the community. Free
I
up
think-
that 25,000.
I think the commissioners will support it if there's a way that.
It's great. Okay.
And I
So-
think, thank you, Ann. And I think most property owners would be in favor of iguana control, you know? So-
Why would anybody not be in favor of it?
Yeah. I mean,
Well, the
it's,
only one might be Walsh, because the more the iguanas eat, the more.
yeah. Not that he needs it, but that was job security. Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah,
maybe we should check to make sure those landscaping trucks aren't filled with iguanas.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Oh, Ken, do you want to make any comments on our financial condition? You sent out the numbers.
Not really, no surprises there. As always, iguana eradication is our biggest line item. So if the CPD can come with a solution for that, that would be wonderful. Otherwise, everything's pretty much as expected.
Okay, I think we've covered our agenda.
There was one question from the audience
Yeah.
concerning hurricane reentry passes. As you may have noticed, we've mentioned that in a couple of our emails, and the city of Sanibel has been sending out something. Whether we need new ones is a question for the Sanibel Police Department.
Actually, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. If you
No,
have an
no,
answer,
they-
please.
Yes, you do need new ones. And it's very easy. You had the link to fill out the form. You just have you have to show proof of residence, and then you can get 1 to 2 passes with one application.
Hmm.
But the old passes are not valuable anymore. You do need new hurricane passes.
And that actually makes sense because they issued so many old passes for Ian. They probably want to get the system back under control.
Right.
And you could just do it online.
Correct. I think both the Sanibel email and ours had links to the online form.
Yeah, okay.
And
And
maybe,
yes,
yeah,
you should work on them now, by the way. Don't wait until there's a hurricane approaching the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Ken, maybe when you put out the next communication from the panel, you could just have a little section there on how to get a hurricane pass.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody else have anything?
No. No. Good.
Well, this must be a record for our shortest panel meeting ever.
That's
Yeah.
because David wasn't on the
That's,
call.
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
we don't have our lawyer. We don't have our lawyer on the call here, so.
I do.
All
Okay.
right.
All right,
Thanks,
so,
everyone.
okay. See you all next time. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks.
Thank you, Jay.